The sky burned red above the colony, and smoke rose in thick, black columns that darkened the horizon. The ground shook from distant explosions, each one echoing like the heartbeat of a dying world. Aaron crouched behind the shattered remains of a transport vehicle, his uniform scorched and his body heavy with fatigue. He had been on the battlefield for days, moving through a storm of fire and chaos, but nothing had prepared him for what lay ahead. He could hear the distant cries of the wounded and the mechanical whir of alien walkers moving across the ruined city. The Vera, the enemy species humans had fought for years, were relentless. Their ships hovered above like dark birds, scanning the streets for survivors. Every step he took carried the weight of exhaustion, but he pressed on. He had seen too many friends fall, too many colonies destroyed, and he had vowed to survive, not for glory, but to protect those who could not protect themselves. As he moved through the rubble, something small and trembling caught his eye. A group of Vera younglings, no older than children, huddled near a collapsed building. Their skin was a pale shade of violet, their eyes wide and filled with fear. Aaron froze. Soldiers had been trained to see enemies as threats, not innocents. But these younglings were different. They had done nothing to harm anyone. Their only crime was being born into the side humanity was at war with. Before he could think further, the ground beneath them shook violently. A nearby building collapsed, sending debris flying toward the younglings. Aaron acted instinctively. He dove toward them, throwing his body over the small creatures as the debris rained down. Rocks and metal struck him hard, bruising his shoulders and scraping his arms, but he did not move. He felt the crushing weight and heard the sharp cracks of stone against bone, but his mind focused only on keeping the younglings safe. When the dust settled, Aaron opened his eyes. The younglings were unharmed, trembling but alive. He had taken the brunt of the fall himself, every ache and pain a reminder of the danger he had faced. He pushed himself to sit up, groaning, his vision blurry from the impact. He glanced around. The battlefield was silent for a moment, as if the world itself had paused to watch him. Then, a sound that froze him in place reached his ears. Heavy footsteps approached, each one deliberate and echoing across the broken streets. Aaron's hand went instinctively to his weapon, but the younglings' frightened whispers stopped him. They looked at him with trust in their eyes, and he knew that any action he took now could determine not just his fate, but theirs. From the shadows emerged a group of Vera warriors. Their armor gleamed in the fading light, reflecting a strange iridescent color that made them appear almost like living jewels. They carried weapons that hummed with energy, and their eyes, sharp and piercing, locked onto Aaron. He felt a cold sweat run down his spine. The younglings cowered behind him, and for a moment, Aaron felt the weight of being surrounded. Every survival instinct screamed for him to fight, to escape, to do whatever was necessary. But then a figure stepped forward from the group. Taller than the rest, with a presence that seemed to command attention, the Vera mother, Nira, approached. Her eyes, unlike the others, were not filled with rage. Instead, they held a strange mixture of sorrow and recognition. She looked at Aaron, then at the younglings cradled beneath him, and for a moment, time seemed to slow. Aaron swallowed hard, unsure of what to do. The Vera mother spoke, her voice deep and melodic, a sound that carried authority but no anger. He did not understand the words, but the tone was unmistakable. She was not here to strike him down. Her presence alone conveyed judgment, and it was clear that she would decide the fate of everyone in that street. The younglings peeked out from under Aaron's arms, their small voices barely audible. They did not scream, did not fight, they simply looked to him. Aaron realized that in that moment, he was not just a soldier. He was their protector, and their lives rested entirely on his actions and courage. He felt a strange calm settle over him, the kind that came when a person understood that they had no choice but to act with honor. Nira extended one of her long, graceful arms, pointing at the younglings and then at Aaron. The meaning was clear. She recognized his bravery and his act of protection. There was no hostility now, only understanding. The other Vera warriors lowered their weapons slowly, though they did not entirely relax. They waited, silent, watching the scene unfold, respecting the decision of their leader. Aaron finally let out a breath he had not realized he was holding. His body ached, every muscle screaming in pain, but he stayed seated, keeping the younglings close. One of them reached out a small hand and touched his arm, a gesture so simple yet so powerful that it made Aaron's chest tighten. He nodded slightly, acknowledging the gesture without words. In that touch was trust, gratitude, and a fragile hope that they could survive this nightmare together. The battle around them had not truly ended, but in that moment, a fragile peace existed in the ruins of the street. Aaron understood that the war was far from over, but he had made a choice that would define the rest of his life. He had shielded those who could not defend themselves, and that act of courage had not gone unnoticed. Nira's gaze softened for a moment longer before she turned and signaled the others. Aaron did not know what would happen next. Would they take him prisoner? Would they demand something in return? He did not know. But one thing was certain. By protecting the younglings, he had crossed a line that no soldier had crossed before. He had shown mercy, bravery, and honor in the face of danger, and that would change everything. As the Vera warriors disappeared into the smoke and rubble, Aaron held the younglings closer. Their small, trembling bodies leaned against him, and he felt a sense of purpose he had not felt in years of fighting. The war would continue, but in this moment, life had won over death, and innocence had survived because one human soldier chose to act with courage. Aaron knew that this was only the beginning. Saving the younglings had put him in the path of a destiny he could not yet understand. The Vera mother, Nira, would remember him. The younglings would remember him. And the choices he had made in the ruins of this burned-out colony would echo far beyond the battlefield. In that silent city, with the sky still burning red and the distant sounds of destruction fading, Aaron sat among the rubble, holding the lives he had sworn to protect. The war had not ended, but something had shifted. The human soldier had done what few could, and the future of both species had been touched by his courage. Aaron had never been so close to the Vera. After the battle in the ruined colony, he had expected the worst. Soldiers told him that the aliens would kill any human they found among their younglings. Yet now, sitting in the quiet of the wrecked street, he realized that the towering Vera mother, Nira, had spared his life. She had watched him, studied him, and made a decision that defied everything he had been taught about the enemy. The younglings huddled around him, their small bodies pressing against his side for warmth. Their eyes, wide and curious, followed every movement he made. They did not speak in words he could understand, but their emotions were clear. Fear, relief, and trust radiated from them in waves. Aaron felt the weight of responsibility heavier than any armor or weapon he had ever worn. Nira remained in the shadows, her form massive and graceful, like a tree bending with the wind. She did not approach him, yet her gaze never left him. Her eyes were sharp, intelligent, and almost human in their depth, yet they carried a weight that only a mother could understand. She had lost many children in this war, and now she watched him protect her young. Aaron felt the quiet pressure of her judgment pressing on him, yet it was not filled with anger. It was filled with recognition. Minutes passed. The battlefield, though still dangerous, had fallen silent. Explosions echoed in the distance, but none approached their corner of the city. Aaron slowly pushed himself to his feet, supporting the younglings as they clung to him. Their small hands touched his uniform, feeling the scars and dirt from the fight. He smiled softly, a rare moment of calm in the chaos. He had no way to speak to them, no way to explain why he had protected them, but the small gestures of connection were enough. The other Vera warriors lingered in the shadows, their weapons lowered but their eyes alert. They whispered in their alien language, a series of clicks and tones that Aaron could not decipher. He could feel their curiosity, their suspicion, and yet also a quiet respect. None of them dared step forward without Nira's command. They were soldiers, trained to obey, and their leader's choice to spare him had given him a fragile protection. Aaron took a deep breath. He needed to understand what had happened and what would happen next. He could not stay in the open for long. He looked at Nira again, hoping for some sign. She did not speak to him, did not gesture, yet he felt as if she were communicating something without words. A silent agreement passed between them. He would not be harmed as long as the younglings were safe. A sudden noise behind him made him tense. Debris shifted as a small creature moved through the rubble. One of the younglings squeaked, and Aaron bent down to calm it. "It is all right," he whispered, though he doubted they understood. His voice was gentle, steady, a sound of calm in a world filled with destruction. The small creatures leaned into him, trusting him completely. For the first time in days, Aaron felt a spark of hope. The moment was broken when a distant roar echoed across the city. Aaron's heart raced. The humans might be advancing, or more Vera soldiers could be arriving. He could feel the tension in the air, the sharp edge of danger that had not left the battlefield even for a second. The younglings shifted, sensing his unease. He steadied himself, placing a hand on their small backs, and whispered again that they were safe. Then, Nira stepped forward, her massive form moving with surprising grace. She stopped a few meters from him, and Aaron instinctively dropped slightly into a defensive stance. But Nira did not attack. She tilted her head, studying him closely. Her eyes narrowed, not in anger, but in thought. She was deciding, judging, and understanding all at once. Aaron met her gaze steadily. He did not flinch. He had faced death many times before, yet the look in her eyes was different from any enemy he had ever faced. It carried wisdom and sorrow, and he felt a deep respect for her strength. After a long moment, Nira spoke, though her words were in the Vera language. Aaron did not understand them, but the tone was firm and commanding, yet not cruel. She gestured toward the younglings and then at him. The meaning was clear. He had acted with courage. He had protected the children. He had earned their respect, and for that, he would not be harmed. The other Vera warriors relaxed slightly at her command. Their weapons lowered completely, though their eyes continued to watch him. Aaron felt a mixture of relief and uncertainty. He had survived the battle, yet he now faced a new kind of challenge. The Vera had rules, codes of honor that humans could not fully understand. He had acted with instinct and compassion, and that instinct had saved him. But he did not know what obligations he now had. Aaron looked down at the younglings again. Their trust in him was unwavering. They were small, fragile, and completely dependent on him. He realized that he could not leave them, could not abandon them to a world filled with soldiers, war, and destruction. He would stay, for as long as necessary, to protect them. That decision, simple yet profound, settled in his mind. Nira watched him carefully. Her expression remained unreadable, but Aaron could sense approval. She was testing him, seeing if he could carry the weight of responsibility, if he could act with honor beyond the battlefield. He felt a connection to her, not as an enemy or a friend, but as two beings who understood the importance of life and protection. Hours passed, and the sky began to darken. The fires of battle glowed faintly in the distance, painting the city in shades of orange and purple. Aaron guided the younglings through the ruins, avoiding unstable buildings and scorched streets. He could hear distant footsteps, the hum of machines, and the quiet whispers of the surviving Vera. Every step was careful, every movement deliberate. He understood now that survival was not just about fighting, it was about careful decisions, understanding, and protecting those who could not protect themselves. As night fell, Aaron found a partially intact building. It had walls that still stood, a roof that provided shelter, and space enough for the younglings to rest. He settled them inside, making sure each one had a safe place to lie down. They clung to him for comfort, and he felt a quiet strength in their small hands. Protecting them was no longer just an act of mercy, it was a responsibility that defined him. Outside, Nira's silhouette watched from the shadows. Aaron could feel her presence, the unspoken acknowledgement that he had passed a test he did not know he was taking. The youngling slept, and for the first time in days, Aaron allowed himself a moment of calm. The war would continue, but tonight, in the ruins of a destroyed colony, life had been protected. Courage, compassion, and honor had created a fragile peace in the heart of chaos. Aaron knew that the days ahead would be difficult. The humans would not understand his actions. The Vero would test him in ways he could not imagine. But for now, he held the younglings close, listening to their quiet breathing, and understood that he had done the right thing. In the silent city, under the watchful eyes of a mother alien, he had found a purpose beyond the battlefield. Aaron woke to the soft hum of energy in the air. The city was quiet now, but the ruins still bore the scars of the day's battle. Outside the building where he had sheltered the younglings, the streets glimmered faintly under the alien moon. The fires from destroyed vehicles and buildings cast long shadows, making the city seem alive even in its silence. Aaron stood and stretched, his body stiff and sore from the previous day's chaos. The younglings stirred beside him, their violet eyes blinking sleepily, trusting him completely. Before he could consider what to do next, a shadow moved across the doorway. He turned quickly and saw Nira standing there. Her presence filled the room with an unspoken authority. She was enormous, her shoulders broad, her movements controlled, yet her gaze softened as it fell on the small creatures clinging to him. Aaron noticed that she did not carry a weapon. She had no need. The respect she commanded was enough to still the hearts of warriors and humans alike. Without words, Nira gestured for him to follow. Aaron glanced at the younglings. They looked to him for guidance, and he nodded gently. Carefully, he gathered them in his arms. They did not resist, and they did not make a sound. It was as if they understood that whatever came next, Aaron was their protector. The walk through the streets was surreal. The ruined city seemed empty except for the occasional Vera patrol moving silently in the distance. Buildings that had once housed thousands now stood as skeletal remains, their walls blackened, their windows shattered. Despite the destruction, Aaron could sense the careful planning in the city's layout. Paths and streets led to central areas that seemed untouched by the worst of the fighting. It was a strange mix of chaos and order, destruction and design. Finally, they arrived at a large, domed structure at the center of the city. Its surface shimmered faintly, reflecting the moonlight in soft waves. Aaron could feel a low vibration in the ground, almost as if the building itself were alive. Nira paused at the entrance, turning to look at him. Her gaze was steady, expectant. Aaron did not understand her words, but he understood the meaning. She was claiming him. The concept was alien to him. In human terms, being claimed meant ownership or control, something he had always resisted. Yet in the eyes of the Vera, it was not ownership but trust, responsibility, and honor. Nira had observed his courage, his decision to protect the younglings, and had deemed him worthy of joining her inner circle. He would live under her protection, bound by an unspoken duty to honor the lives he had saved. Inside the building, the air was cool and smelled faintly of metal and living energy. The walls pulsed with a soft light that seemed to respond to movement. Aaron carefully set the younglings down on a smooth floor that shimmered under their small feet. They explored the space cautiously, but the energy seemed to soothe them. Even in a world of strangers, the younglings felt safe. Nira motioned for Aaron to follow her further inside. They moved through long corridors, each lined with intricate patterns that glowed faintly. Aaron marveled at the design. It was unlike anything humans had built. Every curve, every line, seemed to have purpose. The patterns shifted subtly as they moved past, reacting to their presence. Aaron could not tell if it was technology or magic, but he felt a sense of awe that rooted him in place. They entered a large chamber, open and bright despite the night outside. At its center were pools of liquid that glowed with soft light, and around them moved Vera of all ages, engaged in quiet activity. Some were tending to younglings, others working with strange machines. None paid direct attention to Aaron and Nira, yet all seemed aware of their presence. It was a community built on vigilance, care, and order, and Aaron realized that this was the heart of the Vera people. Nira stopped in the center of the chamber and turned to face him. Her large eyes studied him, observing every detail. Then, she moved a hand in a slow, deliberate gesture. Aaron felt a sudden shift in the air, a change in the energy of the room. He understood instinctively that this was a ceremony, a declaration. By acting with courage and protecting her younglings, he had earned a place here. Nira was claiming him as a protector, not as a prisoner, and he would have to honor that duty. The younglings gathered around him, sensing the importance of the moment. They made soft sounds, almost like whispers, that calmed his rising anxiety. Aaron reached down, gently resting his hand on their heads. Their trust gave him strength. He understood now that this was not a trap, not a threat. This was an acknowledgement of something he had already proven through his actions. Courage and compassion had earned him respect in a way that fighting alone never could. A few of the older Vera approached, their expressions unreadable. They did not speak to him, yet Aaron felt their judgment. They were testing him silently, observing how he would react. He met their gaze without flinching. He had faced soldiers and enemies before, and now he faced a different kind of trial. One that required patience, understanding, and the quiet strength to honor the younglings he had saved. The ceremony continued in silence. Nira raised her head, and a faint vibration ran through the floor. It resonated deep in Aaron's chest. He could feel the connection between the Vera and the younglings, and now between himself and their people. It was not easy to comprehend, yet he felt its power. By protecting life, he had created a bond that could not be broken easily. When the ritual ended, Nira spoke briefly to the older Vera, her gestures commanding attention. They nodded, one by one, and stepped back. Aaron understood that he had been accepted. Not as a soldier, not as a prisoner, but as someone who had acted with courage, someone who had earned trust beyond the boundaries of war. The younglings ran forward, chattering softly in their alien language. They tugged at his arms, and Aaron smiled. He had promised to protect them, and now he had a place to do so. The Vera had recognized his actions, and in return, he had been given a responsibility he could not ignore. He would remain with them, under Nira's claim, learning their ways, and safeguarding the younglings he had saved. As night deepened, Aaron sat quietly in the chamber, surrounded by the younglings. Nira watched from a distance, her presence steady and reassuring. Outside, the city was still scarred by war, but within these walls, there was calm, order, and the promise of protection. Aaron understood that he had crossed a threshold. He was no longer just a human soldier. He had become a protector, bound to a people he had once called enemies, guided by the courage of his actions and the trust of those he had saved. The weight of responsibility settled on his shoulders, heavy but not unwelcome. He had acted with honor, and that honor had changed the course of his life. The youngling slept peacefully, trusting him completely, and Aaron knew that no matter the battles to come, he would not falter. He had chosen to protect life when it mattered most, and in doing so, he had earned a place in a world far beyond anything he had ever imagined. The following morning, Aaron awoke to the soft glow of the alien sun filtering through the domed walls. The chamber where he and the youngling slept was empty, yet the air vibrated with quiet energy. Small hums and clicks echoed in the background as the city stirred to life. Aaron stretched his sore muscles, feeling the aches from the previous battles and the strain of protecting the younglings. Every movement reminded him that his life had changed forever. The younglings stirred beside him, yawning and rubbing their eyes. They looked to him for guidance, their small hands brushing against his arms. Aaron smiled softly. He had grown attached to these fragile creatures in a short time, and he felt a deep responsibility toward them. Their safety depended on him, and he would not fail. Nira appeared silently at the chamber's entrance. Her presence alone commanded attention. She gestured for him to follow, and Aaron quickly gathered the younglings. They obeyed without hesitation, trusting him completely. As they moved through the corridors, Aaron observed the city with fresh eyes. The structures were vast and strange, shaped unlike any human city. Smooth walls curved gracefully, adorned with glowing patterns that seemed to shift as they passed. It was a place of order and purpose, despite the scars of war surrounding it. The Vero moved through the city with quiet precision. Some tended to the younglings, others worked with machines that emitted soft hums. Aaron noticed that every action seemed intentional, and there was a sense of discipline that reminded him of a soldier's training. Yet there was also care, a focus on life and protection rather than destruction. The contrast was striking. They reached an open courtyard where several Vero warriors were practicing. Their movements were precise, almost like a dance, but each action carried deadly intent. Aaron instinctively tensed, understanding that these creatures were trained for combat unlike any humans he had faced. He could see their strength, their agility, and the power in every gesture. They moved silently, yet their presence dominated the space. The younglings clung to him, sensing his unease. Aaron knelt and whispered to them, his voice calm and reassuring. They relaxed slightly, their small bodies leaning into him for comfort. He realized that the younglings had become his anchor, reminding him of why he had acted with courage in the first place. Protecting them was not just a duty, it was a responsibility that defined who he had become. Nira watched him from a distance, her gaze sharp and observant. She did not interfere, yet her presence was a constant reminder that he was being evaluated. Aaron understood that this was part of his introduction to their world. He was no longer just a soldier among humans. He was a human among the Vera, a protector bound by honor, and he would have to navigate a new culture, new rules, and new expectations. One of the Vera warriors approached, moving with the same silent grace Aaron had observed. The alien's eyes studied him carefully, and Aaron felt the weight of scrutiny. This warrior was assessing him, measuring his strength, his resolve, and perhaps even his intentions. Aaron straightened, meeting the gaze without hesitation. He had faced enemies before, but now he faced judgment of a different kind. This was not a battle of weapons, but a test of character. The warrior spoke in the Vera language, a series of clicks and tones that Aaron could not understand. Yet the meaning was clear. He was being invited or perhaps challenged to demonstrate his skill. Aaron glanced at the younglings, then back at the warrior. He knew he could not fail, not for himself, and not for the creatures he had sworn to protect. The warrior demonstrated a series of movements, precise and fluid. Aaron watched carefully, noting the rhythm and purpose behind each action. Then he tried to mirror the motions. At first, his human body struggled with the alien form. His movements were clumsy, awkward, and uneven. The warrior observed silently, correcting subtly with gestures rather than words. Aaron focused, learning quickly. Each adjustment brought him closer to understanding, closer to matching the warrior's precision. The younglings watched with fascination. Their small eyes followed his every move, and Aaron felt their trust deepen. He was no longer just a protector of life, he was becoming part of a living, breathing culture. Each step, each movement, taught him something about the Vera, about discipline, honor, and the connection between strength and responsibility. Hours passed as Aaron trained under the watchful eye of the warrior. Sweat dripped from his brow, his muscles ached, but he did not stop. Every failure was a lesson, every success a step toward understanding. By the end of the day, Aaron moved with a rhythm that surprised even himself. It was not perfect, but it was enough to earn a small nod of approval from the warrior. Nira approached as the sun began to set, her presence calm yet commanding. She gestured for him to sit, and Aaron complied. The younglings clustered around him, exhausted but content. Nira spoke in her melodic language, and though he did not understand the words, the tone conveyed something important. She was pleased. She had claimed him, tested him, and now he was proving that he belonged. Aaron felt a sense of pride, but it was tempered by humility. He was still human, still learning, still an outsider in this alien world. Yet for the first time, he felt a connection. The Vera were not just enemies or invaders. They were beings with values, families, and honor. He realized that the younglings had not just saved his conscience, they had opened a door to understanding a new world. That night, as Aaron settled into the chamber with the younglings, he reflected on the day. The Vera were strong, disciplined, and intimidating, yet there was a code that guided them beyond violence. Protecting life, honoring the young, and demonstrating courage were more important than victory in battle. Aaron had acted with instinct before, but now he saw the purpose behind his actions. He had been right to shield the younglings, and that choice had placed him on a path that could change not only his life but the relationship between humans and Vera forever. As sleep overtook the younglings, Aaron remained awake for a while, watching Nira move silently in the chamber. Her presence was steady and unyielding, yet there was warmth in the way she looked at the creatures she had lost and the ones now under his protection. He understood that he was not just living among the Vera, he was learning from them. The lessons would be difficult, the challenges many, but he would face them with the same courage that had saved the younglings in the first place. Outside, the alien city hummed with life. Lights flickered in distant towers, shadows moved through empty streets, and the quiet energy of the city seemed to pulse in time with Aaron's heartbeat. He had crossed a threshold between worlds. He was no longer simply a human soldier on a battlefield. He was a protector, a student of an alien culture, and a guardian of life. The Vera had claimed him, but in doing so, they had also given him purpose. Aaron finally allowed himself to rest, the younglings nestled close against him. He knew the days ahead would be full of challenges. Training, understanding a new culture, and facing the prejudices of both humans and Vera would test him in ways he could not yet imagine. Yet he felt ready. Courage, compassion, and honor had guided him this far, and they would guide him further. The city outside was dangerous and beautiful, strange and alive, but within its walls, he had found a place where life was valued, and courage was respected. In the quiet of the night, Aaron whispered softly to the younglings. They did not understand his words, but they understood his intent. He promised to protect them, to guide them, and to face whatever dangers came next. They responded with quiet chirps and touches, a simple communication that spoke volumes. Aaron felt a calm settle over him. The war outside still raged, but within the walls of the Vera city, a fragile peace existed. A new chapter had begun, and he was ready to embrace it. The next morning, Aaron awoke to the soft hum of energy running through the city. Today felt different. The younglings stirred beside him, sensing his unease. Something was about to happen, though he did not yet understand what it would be. Nira's presence was calm but commanding, and her eyes watched him with quiet intensity. Aaron gathered the younglings and followed Nira through the corridors. As they moved, he noticed the city's activity had increased. Vera of all ages moved purposefully, their movements precise and disciplined. There was a sense of anticipation in the air, a quiet tension that made Aaron aware of the importance of this day. They arrived at a grand hall at the center of the city. Its ceiling arched high above, supported by smooth, glowing pillars that pulsed softly with light. The walls were decorated with intricate patterns, shifting and changing as Aaron watched. At the far end of the hall sat a council of Vera elders, their forms larger and more imposing than any he had seen before. Their eyes fixed on him immediately, sharp and unyielding. Nira stepped forward and gestured toward Aaron. The council's gaze remained steady. Aaron's heart pounded, but he stood tall. He had faced the dangers of war, the chaos of battle, and the responsibilities of protecting the younglings. Yet standing before this council felt like a different challenge, one that required not strength of arms but strength of character. The council spoke in their language, a mixture of clicks, tones, and melodic sounds. Aaron could not understand the words, but their meaning was clear. They were questioning him, evaluating him, testing the depth of his courage, his loyalty, and his sense of honor. Nira translated the gestures for him as best she could. He was to prove that he had acted rightly and that his commitment to protect life was genuine. One of the elders stepped forward, towering over Aaron. The alien's eyes pierced into his very being. Aaron could feel the weight of judgment pressing down on him. The elder gestured toward a platform in the center of the hall. It was a testing ground, a space where skills, decisions, and courage would be measured. Aaron realized he would have to act in front of all the elders and demonstrate the choices he had made. The younglings watched from the edge of the hall, their small forms clustered together. Aaron felt their presence as both comfort and responsibility. They trusted him completely, and he could not fail them. He stepped onto the platform, standing tall despite the nerves gnawing at him. The council observed silently, their eyes following his every move. Suddenly, alarms echoed through the hall. Red lights flashed as a warning ran through the city. Intruders had entered the outer perimeter, human raiders seeking to exploit the chaos of the war. The council reacted instantly, preparing defenses, and the hall became a place of urgent activity. Aaron's training and instinct kicked in immediately. He could not stand aside. Protecting the younglings and defending the city was now part of the trial. Aaron moved quickly, positioning himself between the younglings and the advancing threat. The raiders were heavily armed, and their intentions were clear. They sought to capture, harm, or destroy. Aaron's human instincts told him to retreat, yet he did not. He had pledged to protect life, and this moment demanded courage beyond fear. The Vera warriors moved to support him, but Aaron took the lead. He coordinated with gestures, signaling safe paths for the younglings and blocking potential dangers. The council watched silently, observing his decisions. Every movement mattered, every choice would be judged not by skill alone, but by intent and responsibility. The first wave of attackers approached. Aaron acted decisively, using cover, timing, and the environment to slow their advance. He did not aim to kill unnecessarily. Instead, he focused on protecting the innocent, guiding the younglings to safety, and buying time for the Vera to respond. Each step he took demonstrated the values that had guided him from the very beginning: the courage to act, the wisdom to protect, and the discipline to endure. The younglings followed his lead, instinctively moving where he guided them. Their trust gave him strength, reminding him of why he had acted to shield them in the ruins of the burned-out colony. Aaron realized that true courage was not in fighting alone, but in ensuring life survived even amidst chaos. The raiders continued their assault, but the Vera warriors quickly surrounded Aaron and the younglings, using precise movements to block and disarm the intruders. Aaron coordinated with them, communicating through gestures and instinct. He realized that he was no longer just a human soldier. He had become a bridge, a protector capable of guiding both humans and Vera through moments of danger. After a tense and strategic defense, the intruders were driven back. Aaron stood in the center of the hall, the younglings close to him, their small hands clutching his arms. The council remained silent for a moment, evaluating his actions. Aaron's chest heaved with exertion, his mind racing, but he knew he had done what was right. He had acted to protect life, showing courage, wisdom, and commitment. Finally, one of the elders stepped forward. Their hand moved in a deliberate gesture, and Aaron recognized the motion from Nira's teachings. It was an acknowledgement, a sign of approval. The council had judged him worthy. He had passed the trial, not by defeating enemies alone, but by demonstrating that his courage extended to protecting those who could not defend themselves. Nira approached, her massive form comforting in its presence. She placed a hand on his shoulder, a gesture of pride and trust. The younglings leaned against him, chirping softly in their language. Aaron smiled, feeling the weight of responsibility shift into a quiet strength. He had been tested, judged, and proven worthy. His actions had not only saved lives, but had also bridged the gap between two worlds at war. The council returned to their seats, signaling the end of the trial. Aaron breathed deeply, feeling a mixture of relief, pride, and humility. He had faced judgment, chaos, and danger, and had emerged as a protector in the eyes of the Vera. The younglings looked at him with adoration, and for the first time, he realized the full impact of his choices. His courage had created hope, and his commitment to protect life had earned respect beyond words. Nero led him and the younglings from the hall. The city outside had calmed, the energy shifting back to its usual rhythm. Aaron understood that this trial was not just a test of strength, but a demonstration of values. Courage, honor, and protection of life were what truly mattered. The Vera had taught him lessons beyond combat, lessons that would shape his path from this moment onward. As night fell, Aaron settled with the younglings, their small bodies resting against him. The trial had passed, but he knew the challenges ahead were far from over. Humans and Veras still clashed beyond the city walls, and he would continue to navigate the delicate balance of trust, protection, and courage. Yet for the first time, he felt a deep connection to the world around him. He was no longer just a soldier. He was a guardian, a protector, and a bridge between two species who had once been enemies. The younglings slept peacefully, and Aaron stayed awake, reflecting on the trial. The council had recognized his actions, Nera had claimed him as a protector, and the city had witnessed the courage that had guided him. The war might continue, but he had found a purpose that transcended it. He would continue to act with honor, protect those who could not protect themselves, and face the challenges ahead with the courage that had defined him from the very beginning. The city was quiet in the early morning light. Aaron walked through the central plaza, the younglings trailing closely behind him. Their small hands brushed against his arms as they moved, a silent reminder of the responsibility he carried. Nera followed at a distance, her towering figure both protective and commanding. Aaron had grown accustomed to her presence, the unspoken guidance she offered, and the respect that now bound him to her people. Despite the calm, tension lingered in the air. The council had summoned him for an important matter. Aaron could sense that today would bring a decision with consequences far beyond anything he had faced before. The younglings seemed to sense it too, walking quietly beside him, their eyes alert and curious. They arrived at the chamber of the council, a vast hall glowing with soft energy. The elders sat in their usual positions, their gaze fixed on Aaron. He could feel their scrutiny, the weight of their judgment pressing down on him. Today, they were not testing his skill or courage in battle. Today, they would determine his loyalty, his purpose, and the future of the lives he had sworn to protect. Nera stepped forward, speaking in her melodic language. Aaron did not understand the words, but the meaning was clear. He had been chosen to make a choice, one that could affect both humans and Vera. A distant world held knowledge, power, and potential danger. The council expected him to decide whether to claim that power for the Vera, share it with humanity, or leave it hidden forever. The decision was his, and his alone. The elders gestured toward a large device at the center of the chamber. A holographic map appeared, showing a distant planet bathed in soft, blue light. Symbols shifted across its surface, representing hidden structures, resources, and energy sources. Aaron recognized that the planet held secrets of the Vera's ancient ancestors, knowledge that could change the course of the war and the lives of countless beings. Aaron looked at the younglings, then at Nera. His heart pounded. The choice was clear in its importance, yet impossible in its consequences. If he claimed the knowledge for the Vera alone, humanity would remain unaware, and the younglings' human kin could suffer. If he shared it with humans, the Vera could lose control, and their world might be endangered. If he left it hidden, both sides would lose the chance to prevent future suffering. Nera's eyes met his. She did not tell him what to do. She simply watched, her expression calm, almost expectant. Aaron understood that she trusted him to act with honor, courage, and wisdom. She had seen him protect life, guide the younglings, and navigate the complexities of her people. Now, she awaited the choice that would define him. Aaron took a deep breath. He felt the weight of the decision pressing on him, the responsibility of countless lives resting on his shoulders. He thought of the younglings, their small faces filled with trust, and he realized that protecting life must remain his priority. Power and knowledge were important, but they were meaningless if life was destroyed in their pursuit. He stepped closer to the holographic map, his hands hovering over the symbols. He considered each possibility carefully, weighing the consequences. The chamber was silent except for the soft hum of energy. The council watched, the younglings observed, and Nero waited. Aaron's mind raced, but he focused on what he had always known: courage was not only in action but in making the right choice, even when it was difficult. Finally, Aaron spoke, his voice firm and calm. He chose to protect life first, to guide the knowledge toward those who would use it responsibly, and to ensure that both humans and Vera could benefit. He would act as a bridge, a guardian of the planet and its secrets, sharing wisdom only when it preserved peace and prevented unnecessary suffering. The council's eyes narrowed, their expressions unreadable. Then, one by one, they nodded. Approval radiated through the chamber, a quiet acknowledgement of his courage and wisdom. Aaron felt a weight lift from his shoulders, replaced by a sense of purpose and clarity. His choice had been difficult, but it was the right one. He had acted with honor, as he had from the moment he shielded the younglings in the ruins of the burned-out colony. Nira stepped forward, her hand resting on his shoulder. Aaron felt a surge of reassurance. She did not speak, yet her presence conveyed pride and trust. The younglings chirped softly, brushing against him, and Aaron smiled. He realized that his actions had not only protected life but had strengthened bonds between species. The decision was his alone, but it had created hope for the future. The council then instructed him to prepare for a journey to the distant planet. He would lead a small group, including both humans and Vera, to ensure the safe exploration and protection of the knowledge hidden there. Aaron accepted without hesitation. The younglings would accompany him when appropriate, and he vowed to guide them safely through whatever dangers lay ahead. As preparations began, Aaron spent time with the younglings, teaching them simple gestures, guiding them through safe paths, and sharing quiet moments of trust. He could see their confidence growing in his presence, and he felt a deep sense of responsibility. Protecting life had always been his duty, but now it was also his mission, one that would require courage, wisdom, and careful judgment. That night, Aaron walked through the city alone, reflecting on the day's events. The stars shone brightly above the domed structures, their light soft and steady. He thought of the younglings, Nira, the council, and the humans waiting beyond the city. His choice had been made, but the consequences would unfold slowly, testing him in ways he could not yet imagine. Yet Aaron felt ready. He had faced death in the ruins, guided young lives through chaos, and earned the trust of beings far stronger and wiser than himself. Courage had led him this far, and wisdom would guide him forward. The planet awaited, its secrets hidden but not unreachable. Life depended on his choices, and he would not fail. He returned to the chamber where the younglings slept, settling beside them. Their soft breathing filled the room, a reminder of the lives he had pledged to protect. Aaron placed a hand gently on each of their small forms, feeling their warmth, their trust, and their dependence on him. The weight of responsibility was heavy, but it was not a burden he would ever abandon. Outside, the city hummed with quiet energy. The Vero moved through their tasks with precision, yet there was calm, order, and purpose. Aaron understood that he had crossed a threshold. He was no longer simply a soldier, no longer just a human in a world of aliens. He had become a guardian, a protector, and a bridge between two species. His courage had shaped his path, and his choice had defined his purpose. As Aaron drifted into a light sleep, he knew that the days ahead would be challenging. The journey to the distant planet would test his skills, his courage, and his ability to lead. Yet he also knew that he would face it with the same dedication that had guided him from the first moment he shielded the younglings. Life must be protected, trust must be honored, and courage must prevail. Aaron awoke to the first rays of the alien sun touching the domed city. Today, the journey to the distant planet would begin. The younglings stirred beside him, their small forms stretching and yawning. Their trust in him was unwavering, and he felt a deep sense of responsibility. This mission was no longer just about survival, it was about shaping the future for two species. Nira stood at the chamber entrance, her massive presence commanding yet calm. She gestured for Aaron to lead the younglings forward. As they moved through the corridors, the city came alive with movement. Vera of all ages prepared for the expedition, coordinating supplies, technology, and guidance. The hum of energy in the walls pulsed softly, like a heartbeat, as if the city itself was aware of the importance of this day. Aaron led the younglings to the transport chamber, where a small fleet of vessels awaited. The crafts were sleek and efficient, designed for speed, protection, and long-distance travel. Vera engineers checked each vessel with precise care, and Aaron could see that nothing had been left to chance. Safety was paramount, and every detail reflected the Vera's commitment to life and order. Before boarding, Nira stepped forward, her eyes meeting his. She did not speak, but her gaze conveyed a message he understood without words. Trust in your judgment. Protect life. Honor courage. Aaron nodded silently. He had learned from her guidance, from the council, and from his own actions that true strength came from protecting the weak and acting with honor. Today, he would put that to the ultimate test. The younglings clung to him as they entered the lead vessel. Their small hands held onto his arms and uniform, and Aaron felt their trust settle like a warm weight on his shoulders. He had guided them through battle, through trials, and now through this new journey. Their safety was his responsibility, and he would not fail. As the fleet lifted into the sky, the city below shimmered softly in the morning light. The domes, towers, and glowing patterns of the Vera city reflected a society built on discipline, honor, and protection. Aaron looked at Nira, who piloted her own vessel beside him. She was calm, yet he could feel her awareness, her constant vigilance over the journey. It was a reminder that courage alone was not enough, wisdom and preparation were equally vital. The voyage to the distant planet was long. Aaron used the time to teach the younglings simple skills: how to maintain balance during movement, how to recognize warning signals, and how to trust instinct and observation. The younglings absorbed each lesson quickly, their curiosity and intelligence remarkable. Aaron marveled at their resilience. In their small bodies, he could see hope for a future where humans and Vera could coexist peacefully. As they approached the distant planet, the holographic map from the council activated. It showed hidden structures beneath the surface, ancient knowledge preserved by the ancestors of the Vera. Aaron studied the map carefully, realizing that this planet held resources, energy, and wisdom that could prevent future wars and protect countless lives. The decision he had made during the council trial would guide every step of the mission. He would protect these secrets, sharing them only to preserve life and foster understanding between species. The fleet landed smoothly on the planet's surface. The ground glimmered faintly with mineral energy, and the air vibrated softly, almost like a living pulse. Aaron guided the younglings out first, ensuring their safety before the adults followed. The structures on the planet were ancient, shaped with elegance and purpose. Glowing patterns covered walls and floors, responding to movement and presence. Aaron felt awe, understanding that this was a sacred place built to protect knowledge and life. They entered the largest structure. Inside, the air was cool, filled with a gentle hum of energy. Holographic displays activated as they moved through the corridors, showing complex symbols and information about the planet's history. Aaron guided the younglings carefully, teaching them to observe and respect the environment. He realized that their understanding of the world, both human and Vera, would be shaped by what they saw here. Knowledge was power, but responsibility made it sacred. Nira approached him, her massive hands resting lightly on the control panels. Her eyes studied the ancient technology, and Aaron understood that she trusted him to lead the exploration. The council had chosen wisely, his courage, compassion, and wisdom had prepared him for this moment. He was not just a protector of life, but a guardian of knowledge that could shape the future of two species. As they explored deeper, Aaron discovered chambers filled with information about energy sources, defensive technologies, and ancient histories of the Vera. Each discovery was carefully recorded and protected. Aaron realized that the planet itself was a test designed to measure the intentions of those who entered. Only those who acted with honor, courage, and responsibility could access its full wisdom. Hours passed, and Aaron led the younglings through safe paths, guiding them around dangers and teaching them lessons in observation, patience, and respect. Each step reinforced the bonds of trust between him and the creatures he had sworn to protect. The younglings chirped softly, exploring yet always staying close. Aaron knew that they would carry these lessons into the future, bridging worlds with understanding and respect. At the center of the structure, Aaron found a chamber containing a core of energy, pulsing with a soft blue light. The holographic displays showed a balance of power and knowledge, a reminder that life depended on careful choices and responsible actions. Aaron touched the control panel, feeling the weight of the responsibility before him. He would safeguard this energy, ensuring it was used only to preserve life and promote peace. Nira approached, her eyes meeting his. Aaron nodded silently. The message was clear: protect, guide, and honor life above all else. He felt the connection between the Vera, the younglings, and the knowledge surrounding them. Courage had brought him here, compassion had guided him, and now wisdom would ensure that life flourished. As the sun of the distant planet set, the chamber glowed softly, reflecting in Aaron's eyes. He looked at the younglings, their small faces filled with trust and curiosity. He realized that his journey had been more than survival. It had been about building hope, understanding, and bonds that could endure across worlds. Humanity and Vera could coexist, and he was now a guardian of that future. The fleet returned to the city with the younglings safe and knowledge preserved. Aaron watched as Nira and the council greeted them, approval and respect in their eyes. He had fulfilled his duty, not through victory alone, but through courage, compassion, and honor. The younglings chirped happily, safe and protected, and Aaron felt a sense of peace he had never known on the battlefield. That night, Aaron stood on the balcony of the city, looking out over the glowing domes and towers. The stars above seemed brighter, filled with possibilities and hope. He thought of the younglings, of Nira, of the choices he had made, and realized that courage was more than facing enemies. It was protecting life, guiding others, and making choices that shaped the future. Aaron finally allowed himself to rest, the younglings curled around him. He had become more than a soldier. He was a protector, a bridge between worlds, and a guardian of life and knowledge. The journey ahead would continue, but he was ready. With courage in his heart and responsibility guiding his actions, Aaron embraced his role as a true guardian of two worlds.